Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of the CCZone podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a rather interesting topic in honor of voting ending in about a month. The top 10 CCLP4 candidates that only we seem to like. And I emphasize the word seem because I'm guessing that there are probably some of you out there listening who might like these levels too, and maybe you felt alone up to this point. So with me today, I've got a couple of special guests here.
Hey everybody, I'm back with this podcast. Josh, Florian 350, CCLP4 co-staff leader, and here I am.
Hello, I'm Andrew Menzies, also a CCLP4 staff member, and this is my first time doing a podcast, so hoping to have some fun here.
Yes, it's great to have both of you here. So, how did you come up with your lists? We usually talk about that before we dive right in.
My list, I tried to pick levels that aren't in the current voting results that we have access to right now. So all 10 levels I picked aren't in the top 250 as of right now. And some of mine, I kind of went with levels that I think are either underrated, not as liked as I think they deserve to be liked, or just levels I think have good playability that are fun to play, or levels that just kind of get undermined, kind of got thrown under the dirt just because there's like one or two things about them that most people don't like. And that's basically what my list consists of.
Now, let me make sure I understood you correctly, Josh. You said that these levels are not in the current top 250?
Yes.
Oh, okay. What about you, Andrew?
That's some voting spoilers, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I basically just tried to think of which were the levels that stood out to me as I was going through the voting packs, and when I was looking at other people's feedback, didn't really get mentioned. So basically, my list is not ordered in terms of level quality, but more like what I think of the level minus what the community thinks of the level.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much what I did too. I don't know what the voting results are, so I kind of had to basically guess, or at least sort of gauge what the community thought of these levels based on the amount of hype they've gotten and how much they've been praised in the pack feedback threads on CCZone. And I also took my own feelings about the levels into account, because while I've given all of these levels a 5, some of them I like more than others, even within that narrow bandwidth. And I try to, the more dissonant my feelings are between myself and the rest of the community, or at least the way it seems to be, the higher I ranked them on the list. So, I suppose with that all taken care of, let's go ahead and get started with number 10.
Okay, so for this podcast, I'll be going first this time around. And my number 10, first of all, the way I ordered mine, they're not really in a set order per se. They're just ordered the way I like them the most, compared to how the community likes them. And so my number 10 is a Sokoban type level, or actually it is a Sokoban, and it's not one. It's one that's uniquely designed, and it's kind of a shame that it's not as liked as I think it deserves to be, because the designer of this level has made some pretty awful levels. No offense. Um, and this is probably one of my favorite levels by this designer. And this level is Dave's Warehouse, Zygote number 37. Well, by Dave.
That's a good choice, Josh. I actually really enjoyed that level. It's just kind of unique how you have to dig out the blocks through a little blue wall maze, but there's not really guesswork involved there. It's just a little fun extra thing to do, and then there's a bit of cleverness on how you have to order things as you're getting the blocks to the buttons, but it's not really stressful to figure out at all. It's quite enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one wasn't one of my favorites, but I can definitely see why it's a little bit more unique than other Soko bands. I tended to just at this point, like I feel like we've explored a lot of the traditional Sokoban type levels that I haven't exactly been giving them very much time of day during CCLP4 voting, and that's not as an offense to them, but just because I feel like there's just so many block pushing levels out there that at this point it's kind of fun to just to explore some other things outside the realm of traditional Sokobans. But this one definitely has some unique twists, which is really cool.
Yeah, I do prefer other block pushing levels compared to this. It's all my top, well, most of my top 10 levels. They're not necessarily levels I want to see in the set. This is one I definitely wouldn't mind seeing though.
Okay.
Same for me. They're all at least levels I'd be happy to play if they got into the set.
Well, that's good. So what's your number 10, Andrew?
It's a level from the Inchworm pack, and since the Inchworm pack is made up solely of community nominated levels, it means it was already underrated by the staff, in my opinion, because
Ooh.
they didn't nominate it into voting. And it's an interesting little symmetry level. It looks very simple at first glance, but as you start to play with it, you realize there's a little more to it than you thought. But there's a slight problem to it, and I'll get to that later. Anyway, the level is called The Trouble with Mirrors, and it is level 6 in the Inchworm pack.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, this level won the CCLP3 Create competition last year, didn't it?
Oh, it looks like Walls of Air Pocket?
Yes.
I guessed that right? Yes, I guessed it right. Okay.
That's a Chipster 1059 level. Yeah,
Right. Yeah,
I think
I'm
either
pretty sure it
that
is.
or another one.
And here's what I'm going to mention. When I said it has a flaw, I'm going to say what the flaw is. The flaw is I think the second sentence in the hint should be deleted because it basically gives away the twist to the level, and I think it's a lot more fun to figure that out for yourself.
Okay, I haven't actually gotten to this level yet, so I can't comment on it, but it looks rather interesting.
I actually forgot what this level looks like. Let me look at it real quick.
It has a lot of fire.
I have, yeah. Oh yeah, this level. Yeah, I don't know. It's I can see why it was nominated. It's not. It's obviously not one of my favorites. I didn't recommend it during the testing phase, but um, it's a neat little level. I do like the little twist to it, but I do agree with Andrew. The hint mentioning it kind of ruins the level, which is a shame.
Well, I'll definitely have to check it out. So my number 10 is a level that I made, and I'm putting it at the bottom of the list mainly for that reason, because I feel like my opinion on it is not going to be impartial, and I don't really know what a lot of people think of this level. I know it didn't really get many staff nominations during the testing phase. In fact, I think it was just me and Jeffrey, possibly, who nominated it. I think it was just two of us, and maybe a third person joined in later on. And this may be just because I added it to my submission set later after we had started submissions. But this was a level that I had submitted to a create competition a couple of years ago, and it didn't win or anything, but I was really proud of it, and that is Chilled to the Bone, Nightshade number 6. I have not really heard much about this level since I made it, actually. It uses the walls of switch hits from CCLP2. And it's got this concept that I've really wanted to put in a level for a long time, and when I saw the walls, I was like, okay, this is the perfect opportunity to use this. Basically, what I've been wanting to do is I've been wanting to create a maze where instead of navigating through either a set of barriers that either change or are fixed, and you have to just find different ways to get through to new areas via item swapping or something like that. I wanted to make the maze a lot simpler in terms of what sorts of elements it used, and use something like blocks to open up new pathways that would allow shortcuts back to the beginning or previously visited areas. So the whole conceit of this level is that you start off with this very small area that you can explore, but the more you start bridging water and the more you start moving things out of the way, the more you can actually access throughout the level. It's not exactly a short level, and I think I recall somebody commenting on the pack that this came from saying that they wish that it was scaled down a bit more. Wish I could do that, but it is a walls of level, so I couldn't exactly delete the walls without making it look really weird. Um, or cut it off without making it look really weird, I should say. But overall, I really like this one a lot. I wouldn't mind seeing this in the final set, and it's one of the levels that I submitted that I'm actually kind of proud of. So there is that.
I haven't played this level yet, but I'm looking at it in the editor, and my first thought upon opening up is mining for gold keys with ice slides.
It kind of is like
At
that, I
least in
guess.
terms of how the blocks open up new areas.
That is true. I guess mining for gold keys was kind of like that as well.
It looks pretty
Uh,
fun.
I do like that level. I don't remember what rating I gave it, but I do like that level quite a bit. Um, it's definitely better than my switch hit walls level, but uh, it's a pretty awesome level altogether.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my choices, I'm probably going to get a, but I like that too reaction, so I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I tended to put,
I have a feeling a lot of this is going to happen.
yeah, it's either going to be that or, oh, you liked that? But that's what's fun about this, is that it sparks discussion, it's a good conversation starter. So, with that in mind, moving on to number 9.
Okay, so my number 9, it's a level I've played probably at least 20 times. I love this level so much, it's not even funny. And I honestly don't know why I like it so much. It's ridiculous. I've praised this level at least 2 times, one of which was in a video, and actually twice in a video. And uh, it's a Force 4 level with a pretty awesome level title that's kind of uh, gruesome to think about, but awesome at the same time. And that's Bathing in Battery Acid, obstacle number 41.
That's a really
And,
fun
yeah,
one.
I love this. I love this level. Like it's. I wish it was bigger, and I think I even complained about that when I played this in Ultimate Chip 5. But I wish it was bigger. I wish there was a little bit more to it than what it is, because it's just that much fun. And like the whole opposing force floors is. It's honestly a concept I wish was done a little bit more.
I like that implementation of it way more than, what was that other level? Trembling, I think was the name of it, by Archie.
Yeah, I didn't like Trembling that much either. That was just nerve wracking, which
Yeah,
I think was the purpose, but still.
I vaguely remember Trembling, and yes, this one definitely looks a lot more fun than that one.
This
Looks
one was used
pretty.
for a time trial, right?
I don't know if it was. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Like, I want to say this was like the easy level from the time trial, and then there was a harder one or something, but I could be remembering incorrectly.
I'm looking
But
at it. I
yeah,
haven't actually played this level, but it looks fairly simple, but yet just a slight bit more complicated than it appears at first glance. You gotta figure a couple of places we have to figure out how to navigate out of a certain area, but it's not really too hard.
Well,
yeah,
cool.
it's a fun level.
Any other thoughts about it, Josh?
Yeah. I hope it gets in CCLP4.
All right. So, what's your number 9, Andrew?
It's a level that actually, unlike most of the levels on my list, which just didn't get a lot of feedback, this one has gotten a lot of negative feedback that I actually kind of like. It's Zygote level 50, Blob Hunt.
Oh,
It's a
That's
level where
interesting.
you have a wide open area with 4 blobs moving around. You have several blocks, about probably 30, 35 blocks. Uh, Actually, yeah, about 30 blocks, I think. And you need to basically corral the blobs, so that they don't push green buttons, and that way you're able to get to the exit. And like I said, I can see why people hate this level. It can definitely take a while if the blobs don't cooperate, but I actually kind of liked having to improvise as I went, try different things, try things that had a high probability of succeeding, even though they couldn't necessarily always succeed. And it felt really good to actually, once you catch a blob, compact it into the corner. It's like corral if you actually did have to corral the blobs.
this level kind of reminded me a lot of a level from Tyre Thali Ansrath's set called Web, I think it is, where there's tank buttons, but the blocks are on walls, and you have to push them off the walls. It's really interesting.
Blob hunt. I I like the idea of it. Admittedly, I like the idea of having the trap blobs, and I think I've done that at least once or twice in some levels
Like
I've made.
compaction.
Com- Compaction, yeah, yeah, the whole compaction, and I've used that concept several times, but I think the level is a little too big,
Yeah.
and I think that's what hinders it. That's the main reason why I don't like it. I like the idea of it. If it was smaller, I would like it a lot more. But the amount of blobs there are, I appreciate that there's only four. And
Hmm.
I think Jeffrey busted this level actually. I remember a video he posted that this level was like a bust or something with like toggle wall timing or whatever.
Well, I think he was able to get enough luck that the blobs were not. Well, they were either hitting the buttons at the same time or they weren't hitting them at all.
Yeah, oh yeah, it might have been a luck thing. Yeah, but I remember the video. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's my only issue with the level is because I like the idea of it, but part of my issue with it is that corralling the blobs is kind of a little bit cumbersome when there's just so much room. And thankfully, there was only four, which I'm very grateful for. But I think if it were smaller, it not only would be much more manageable, but it would also make um, the level into something of an alertness challenge where you're having to make sure that you're not really in the immediate vicinity of a blob too.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I think.
Yeah, those seem like valid objections, and I think this concept could definitely be done better. But I like the concept at least,
Well, that's a perfect
and I did
segue.
have fun playing the level.
Oh, that's good. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just kind of feeling eager
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
that's a perfect segue to my number nine, which is also a blob level too, which is partially why it's on this list. I have a funny feeling that there are people out there who really do like this level, though. But I think one of the big blob levels that has really gotten a lot of positive feedback has been Greeny in Motion by Josh.
Yeah,
And typically, I feel like blob levels are just kind of one of those things that a lot of people don't like to talk about. So if there's one that's really good, the focus can easily be on that one. But this one I haven't heard a lot about, but I think it's really cool. And it does something that I feel like a lot of blob levels don't really do. And this level is Waffle Number 50, Launch the Bacon by Rock Generu. So this level is pretty small, and much like Blob Hunt, it doesn't really offer a lot in the way of safe spots throughout the level. There are some toward the edges, but this level by and large just totally eschews this whole design trend that we've seen since CC1, where you're in a room with blob or blobs, and there's just these little gravel spaces around the room that you can run to just to take shelter. And then you have to be patient and wait for the blobs to get out of the way, and then run some more. This level is not like that. This level offers little in the way of being safe. Instead, you're constantly being distracted by this checkerboard wall and floor pattern that the level is pretty much made out of, which is pretty devious, I gotta say, and offers something that's pretty unique, I think. And on top of that, you have to collect keys that enable you to push a block through these doors to get to the exits. And pushing a block and dodging blobs at the same time is something that I don't think has really been done at all in an official set, at least to this degree. And I really appreciate it when levels can transcend genres like this. And I think this level is a very good example of that. So that's why it's on my list as number 9, Launch the Bacon.
Mm. I
uh,
actually did not like this one so much.
Oh,
I just
okay.
found it I just found it rather frustrating because there's so much you have to keep track. You need to get all the keys, you need to figure out the correct path to the exit, and then having to push the block where there are blobs there is kind of problematic. Because in some blob levels, there are multiple ways through an area, so if the blob's in one place, you can go to another place. But here, if the blob's next to the block, well, you just gotta either take a risk or wait for it to go away.
That's true. That's fair.
I just didn't feel it was fun enough to offset the frustration it caused me.
I'm kind of torn with lunch to bacon, honestly. I think I'm in the middle of this with Andrew not liking it and JB liking it. I'm in the middle. I like it, but there's a part of it I don't like about it. I don't like the key part, the key puzzle part of it. I love the block pushing in the blob segment. I agree that that's a concept I have never seen done in an official set before, and I've done it a couple of times, but I don't think I submit any levels that have that concept. It's there's just a part I like about it, and then there's a part I don't like about it. It is an easy level though. I think I beat it my second try, but yeah, that's my opinion.
All right. Moving on to number 8.
Okay, so my number 8 is conveniently also a rock Jinru level, and it's a level that I think I'm the only one that's actually so-called praised this level and the discussion pack this level comes from, because the pack it's from is not really one of the strongest packs out there, and this is probably one of the few strong levels in my opinion from this pack that I like. It's a key puzzle that it's makes you think that you can solve it in any way you want, but it's actually pretty devious with how you have to handle the keys, because there's teleports, there's pop-up walls, and this level is Colorblind Dog Microwave 24.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Ooh, I like that one too. Though I actually don't think I had much trouble with it. I think I got it the first try.
Yeah, I think I did too.
When I first played it, I think it took me a couple of tries to beat it because I was greedy with the keys and just unlocked everything right away, and then I realized I missed like two or three chips. So you do have to be mindful of what keys you use. It's basically it's one of those. I think I mentioned something like this in some level video I've made. How there's like all these key levels and how you almost always have extra keys, so it makes the level kind of trivial to a certain level. This one actually kind of uses them in a pretty puzzling way that you have to figure out. It's not like too many keys or whatever, but
Oh, yeah.
I had fun with it.
Well, cool. So what's your number 8, Andrew?
My number 8's another one from the Inchworm pack, and it's just a very nice little variety level with 4 different challenges arranged around a symmetric center room, and I just it's not very challenging. It could go near the beginning of CCLP4, but it had a couple of creative parts, especially the challenges on the right and the left, and it's called Fortify, level 44 in the Inchworm pack.
I wish I had played through this pack beforehand so I can comment on these levels.
I honestly wasn't expecting anything from the community nomination packs. I don't have any, I can say that.
I vaguely remember that this had an issue in links with the clone machines, because I remember testing this for CCLP1 way back in the day. But I remember the idea of it was really cool, and the block thing in the beginning reminded me of Key Color from CCLP2, so that was really neat.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the way the clone machines work is something I don't think I've seen before. And I was impressed with the creativity when I played it.
Cool. I can't wait to play that one here soon. Alright, so my number 8 is a level that I'm including here just because I feel like at CCLP4 we've had 3 community-produced level packs, and we've had 1 official set in CC1 that started everything. And I still claim that the 1 official set contains probably one of the best examples of a sequel in Chip's Challenge history as far as how it relates to the original, and that's Blockbuster 2. Now, whether or not you like the level is a different story. I mean, it's not personally one of my favorites, but I do respect the fact that it's called Blockbuster 2, and it does bear some degree of resemblance to the original Blockbuster. Unlike a lot of custom levels these days that just take names of things that can garner recognition and just slap them onto levels. I feel like that's less done now than in the days of, say, Kyle W1, for instance, which did that all the time. But I'm one of those people who, if I'm going to include a sequel to a level in an official set and retain its title, I want to make sure that that sequel builds upon the original and does something very interesting with it. And I think this level does that. This level was designed by one of our panelists here, Andrew, and is found in Longbow number 48, and that is Repair the Automatic Caution Doors. Now, if you know me, you know I like the original level that preceded this one, which was in CCLP1. And when Andrew told me during the testing phase of his own level set, the other 100 tiles, that he was going to build a sequel to this, my expectations were like sky high. Like I just could not wait to see what he came up with. And I was kind of expecting a level that basically took that concept of having to go through these toggle doors, turnstiles, and just applied it to new environments and new situations and stuff like that. Little did I know that there was going to be a completely new hook that this level presented, and that was extending the toggle door sequence by pushing blocks. And this could have been disastrous, I think, in the hands of some other designers, but Andrew handles this with such, what's the word? Just such intuitiveness, I guess you could say, where you're told don't go all the way, don't try anything funny here, and you just have to like tap the block in there and everything. And it's not exactly a super difficult level either, especially if you've played the original, which is really nice. But it does contain marks of the original. There are puzzles that do remind you of sections of the original, but still manage to be their own thing. And the level takes about the same length as the original, which is pretty nice as well. But I respect this level for doing something that was done before, but doing something different enough that it's its own thing. And I really appreciate that a lot.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, JB. I know a lot of people in the leaving feedback said it was pretty good, but not as good as the original. However, I think you may be pleasantly surprised.
Repair the automatic caution doors. I liked it. I do like the original better, but that's not saying I don't like the sequel. It's a good level. It does do the original justice, which is always appreciated when sequels do that.
Yeah. I will say, as kind of a contrasting, a slightly more negative example of this, I'm going to point to, and I'm sorry for doing this, Andrew, I'm going to point to another level from that same set, which also built on the original, but I felt like it went a little too far, and that's Repair the Maze 2.0. Now, I love the original Repair the Maze a lot, and I do enjoy what the sequel did, but I feel like the sequel was just way too long and way too big compared to the original. A very nice level, though, no doubt, but I feel like as a sequel, this level does a couple of things. It builds on the original, and it manages to be an enjoyable experience on its own merit, too.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that as well.
I will say that Repair is one of the levels I'm most hoping would make it into CCLP4 out of the ones I made in the other 100 tiles.
Repair the Maze?
No, automatic caution doors. Repair the automatic caution doors.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool. Well, moving on to number 7.
Okay, so my number 7 is okay. It's a level that appeared in a voting pack that was like a later voting pack that was released like in October. So it's still fairly new, but I haven't heard anything about this level in particular. It's one of mine, and I don't know the way this level is and everything. It's a maze, but it's a really uniquely designed maze that I'm personally really proud of, and it's definitely a lot better than the maze that's in the voting community pack. And he uses invisible walls. It's kind of like Tom Patton's what's that level called? Exclamation point question mark. And the level I'm talking about is hacked save file voltage number 50. And The reason why I like this level so much is because the way the maze is, it's supposed to be like kind of complex, but really like pretty simple, honestly. And just the way it's designed, it's really similar to Divide by Zero, just four individual small sections instead of one big map. And the rest of it's just covered in invisible walls, which is not too terrible. And then the teleporting sequence to the exit, which I that's the only thing I would change, is make the ending a little bit more interesting. But to me, this is a kind of a maze that I don't think people would get through on the first try, just because it's, it looks different. The walls are made of, well, not walls. So that's my number 7.
Yeah, I really liked this one a lot. I think the only suggestion I had toward it, as far as improving it, was I kind of wish that the four areas weren't just plain squares. The level just seemed to be very much geared toward that sort of messy, just patchwork sort of look where everything's just kind of there, splotched all over the place. And I think it would have been cooler to have like really almost disfigured areas. But other than that, I really liked it a lot.
I did consider doing that when I did design it, but I ultimately went with the invisible wall type thing because if I include like like random tiles where the invisible walls are, it would kind of make the level unfair to some degree and make it more hard and what it could potentially be. I don't know. I have designer bias with this level.
Yeah, I
So
didn't mean splotching like individual tiles around. I just meant making the four sections like not shaped like squares. That's what I meant.
oh yeah, yeah. I could have done that too.
Like
I didn't even think
keeping
of
the
that.
invisible wall section the way it is.
I haven't actually
Yeah,
played this. I haven't actually played this level, and it's one I'd really have to play to see how I like it, because trying to look at one of these messy levels and judge what it's like to play at first glance is very difficult for obvious reasons. But I will say I am kind of a fan of the messy random tiles aesthetic, and I kind of wish at least one level with that theme would make it into an official set.
Cool. So
yeah.
what's your number 7, Andrew?
It's my third inchworm level out of the 4 positions I've given so far, but it's the last one from the inchworm pack. No more.
All right.
It's an interesting sort of concept. It's a teeth guiding level where you're in a hallway, a teeth is in a sort of parallel hallway, and you kind of have to help each other get through. But then at the end, there's a nice little twist because you actually end up switching places with the teeth. So now you're going through where it was, and it has to help you through what you helped it through. And it's called Half of You, Half of Me. It's level 50 in the Inchworm pack. And I just thought it was a pleasant little experience, even if it's not extremely challenging.
Again, I will have to reserve comment until I actually play this level. But it definitely looks interesting, though. I will say that. It looks like a lot like, what was that other level Rock made? Judas's Last Stand?
Last move.
Or Judas' Last Move. That's what it was. I know it began with
Yeah.
Judas.
That might explain the hint. Hint text. You take care of Judas, right, Chip?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I was talking to Rock about when he was submitting his sets for CCLP4 and fixing what levels had problems of his. He specifically told me that he hoped this level does well in CCLP4 voting, because I guess this is one he's most proud of, from what I understood of the conversation we had.
Oh.
I like it. I did I complete it? I think I completed it. It's pretty tricky to figure out, I thought, but I think it does well to, I guess, the sequel to Judas's Last Move. But I don't think I played that level, so I didn't get the full on experience either, technically.
I like the idea of Judas's Last Move, but I felt like the end, and it does take a little while to get to the end if you're playing it for the first time. The end can be a little bit devious. So if this level helps correct some of that, then I think I'm going to enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to trying this one out. Okay, so my number 7 is a level that's pretty much an item swapper, and I gotta say, CCLP1 had quite a few levels that involved item swapping. I don't know if I would say that all of them were pure item swappers, but I do tend to enjoy levels where there is something like item swapping that you see throughout a lot of different compositions, but there's like a connecting theme or like some sort of mechanism that threads its way through everything, or some aesthetic that really sets the level apart. And this level does this quite well, and it is Tornado number 40, Nova Prospect by Eddie Lim. So this level has an aesthetic that I've never really seen in anything else before, except I think now Josh has released a level that's not in the voting pool that has pink balls all over the place called Amethyst Mine. But this level, within the stuff that's in the voting pool, has this thing where there's pink balls on the outside of the level where you can't get to, and random force floors, which is really quite a color combination. On the inside of the level, you've got basically these 4 sections. And usually, if you know me, you know that I don't really like levels that involve like 4 quadrants and they all involve similar things. But this level manages to spice things up a little bit by making some parts of the level somewhat different, and also having this recessed wall thing in the middle where you have to be really careful about where you're stepping and everything. It's not super crazy hard per se, and on top of that, the level is really fun to optimize, and I was really on the fence about whether or not I was going to give this a 4 or 5, so that was what ultimately decided for me. I hate doing that, but that bumped it up a little bit for me. So I had a lot of fun with this one, both from a casual and an optimization perspective, and that's Nova Prospect.
I like the
This is one-
central area.
I agree. I haven't played this level, but that central area looks really fun just itself.
But yeah, I like the individual sections with like where the locks are and then the different kinds of monster interactions. I thought that was pretty cool how that was done with such a perfectly shaped level, and yeah, the aesthetics are pretty fabulous. I love them.
All right, moving on to number 6.
Okay. So my number 6 is a level that I personally felt it reminded me a lot of like some of the original CC1 levels that kind of required you to like explore and kind of get a feel of the level, but it had like no real goal per se. Like there's no real concept with this level in particular. Just it's mainly an exploration level, and I feel like a lot of these types of levels don't get as much attention as they used to, like back in like CCLP2 days or something. But I enjoyed playing this level quite a bit. It's one I really hope gets into CCLP4, and it's called Ghost Town, which is Quagmire number 17 by, I think Zane made this level.
If it's the one with the dirt and all the chips to collect, then yes, he did.
Yeah, that's it. This level's a lot of fun to play. And it's one of those levels that doesn't need... It's untimed, but it's not really one that I feel like should be untimed, but it just adds more of that ghost town feel to it. Like you feel like you're just isolated and you're just collecting everything and going to all these little rooms that have like no moving monsters, which is kind of like what's that level called? Frozen in Time from CCLP1. I love the feel of this level. Like there's goals to it. It wasn't really an item swapper, at least I don't think it was. And there's even a block guiding section to it too, which I thought was a nice touch.
Again, it's one I haven't played, but I kind of do like the aesthetic of it, and block guiding through an area with interesting aesthetic is something I kind of like. I'd classify it as, I agree that it's not really much of an item swapper, it's more like item collection because there's only like one place where you can use each key. in most cases.
Hmm. Yeah, this level is pretty
Yeah.
good, but I think I gave it a low rating just because there was another level by Zane that also had a similar sort of abandoned look kind of concept that I really liked, and that was Earthquake from the same set, or from the same pack, which was Quagmire 8. Um, but other than that, I think it's a pretty solid level.
Yeah, I liked Earthquake as well. I was actually kind of in debate on which one I wanted to pick for this because I like both these levels. But the only reason why I picked Ghost Town instead of Earthquake was because of that appearing wall section on the bottom of Earthquake. I did not like that at all because I think I died to like like it was one of those like Blue Forest Fire type things. You oof and then you go by instinct and die
Oh, yeah,
type
I'm going
things.
to take another look at that.
I guess that's what I get for designing Blue Forest Fire, but
No, that was the first thing that came to mind.
yeah.
Well, cool. So what's your number 6, Andrew?
It's a level from the microwave pack. It's an item swapper. It starts out fairly easy, but then you get to the last part, and there's a pretty clever twist to it that really forces you to stop and think for a while. It's called Security Gates. It's level 10 in the microwave pack.
Ooh, I liked this one.
Yeah, that level. I wasn't a big fan of it, honestly. I felt like it might just be me, but I felt like it was like a lot longer than what it should have been of a level. Unless I'm missing something. I don't remember. It's been a while since I played it.
I can kind of understand that, but I think in some ways the length of it helps it a little bit because at first you're kind of conditioned, and I guess we're going to spoil this here, but at first you're basically conditioned to find, okay, I need to get these tools in order to get through, and in your head you start walling off each column of stuff that you're going through, each room that you're going through, and then toward the very end, you're finally forced to actually go back into another room and get stuff. And by that point, it's such an interesting subversion just because you had been going at it for a little bit. I think it may have been one room a little bit too long, but I think it got most of the stuff right.
Yeah, I think if it was one room shorter, I would have liked it better. I like the idea of it though. It's kind of like toolbox or which one next, but it actually has like a progression theme for it, which in due respect to those former levels is a good thing.
Right, and I think that's part of the reason why I enjoyed it was because at first when I saw it, when I saw the map of it, I was like, oh no, it's going to be another one of those levels. And then it quickly turned into oh, wait a minute, no, I don't actually have to get everything. Oh, wait, no, I'm not supposed to get everything. And then it turned into oh, I can't actually keep thinking the same way throughout this, so I actually had to adjust my thinking, which was always something nice to encounter.
I had pretty much the same experience as JB, and I really preferred over Toolbox and which one next. And I actually kind of have a little soft spot for levels that play with your expectations.
Me too.
Especially if it's not in a way that's like completely out of nowhere and frustrating. In this case, it might be a bit out of nowhere, but it adds a really nice. There is a very intriguing puzzle, so I like it.
So my number 6 is also a level that sort of plays with your expectations, although maybe not quite as deviously as Security Gates did. This level was in CCLP1 voting, and I think this got robbed of a spot in CCLP1. It didn't exactly do super well in voting. I think some people kind of looked at it as a little ordinary, to use a word that Chipster likes to use. But I think this level is actually quite brilliant when you break it down. And that level is Ravioli number 36, Someplace Safe by Archie Pusaka. Now, this level is pretty small. It basically involves these 4 quadrants where there's chips, and each quadrant is tied to one of the elements, like force 4, fire, water, ice. And normally, if you know what I hate in level design, it's levels that feel this urge to put 4 different quadrants in a level and assign them an element. Now, why do I like this level, though? Well, I tend to like levels that, again, play with your expectations. And I feel like when a level is symmetrical, the natural expectation that people walk in with is, oh, it's symmetrical, therefore I have to do basically the same thing in every room. Well, right off the bat, this level pretty much destroys that expectation because you're handed these suction boots that you're then immediately forced to get stolen, which is pretty funny, actually, I think. Because there's a central room where there are these paramecia circling around thieves, and you're forced to step on the thieves in order to stay alive. You can't get around that. And so basically, you're having to go through the rest of the level collecting boots and collecting chips, all while keeping in mind that you're going to have to visit that suction area last. And it's not a hard level. I think it could go into like the first third of CCLP4. But it's one of those levels that I think sets the stage for CCLP4 in a way that could really impact the way people think throughout the rest of the set in a good way. Because part of the problem with CCLP3 that I had was that early on, like with levels like Zelgon's Lair, you're pretty much conditioned to think in terms of when in doubt, go without. And later on in the set, you pretty much approach everything with suspicion. Now, if a level involves approaching everything with suspicion, like Mud Pie, for instance, that's one thing. But there are a lot of innocuous levels that don't require that. But you're conditioned to think that way. Whereas this level, I feel like it subverts your expectations, but it also trains you to keep you on your toes without completely destroying you. Like, you're not constantly questioning every single thing. You're given what you need to know right at the start, and you're just constantly aware of, okay, I need to make sure that I'm not just blindly playing through this. So that's one of the main reasons why I like it a lot. It is number 6 on my list, Someplace Safe by Archie.
I felt this level was like, I don't know. I think I gave it a decent rating for CCLP1 voting, but I think here for CCLP4, I think I gave it a slight lower one, mostly because of the easiness of it. I honestly didn't know how to solve it when I first played it back in CCLP1 voting, and when I figured it out, it was oh, this is an awesome level and give it a good rating. And here, I pretty much remembered the solution from way back then, and I was like, oh well, that didn't last as long as I thought. So I think I gave it a 3. I don't remember. I had to go through my votes, but it's a good level. Like when it comes to playing with your expectations, I like the fact that when you pick up the suction boots, I think I actually tried to make a run for it to survive with them, and then I realized, oh yeah, they have to get stolen. I forgot, but I like that part of it. But I think once you get to, I think I got to the flippers first. I think that's what you need to do first, actually. The rest of the level just kind of opens up, I think.
Right, which is one of the things I liked about it, was that it didn't stay in complete subversion mode forever. Yeah, oh, go ahead, Andrew.
No, keep going. I'll wait till you
Okay.
finish.
I was going to say, just a word of warning, I think most of the rest of the levels on my list are going to be easy levels.
I was about to say, well, yes, I think this level can be a little devious if you assume that there's some way to survive the paramecia without stepping on the thieves and keep the suction boots, and I think I might have actually done that when I played this level because I forgot how to solve it from CCLP1 voting. But looking at it, it's actually a pretty nice teaching tool, I think. It just teaches you to think outside of conventions, because you'd think you'll grab each boot by entering the section from where the paramecia are, but no, you just pick up the flippers and then you essentially grab the fire boots from the outside. And I kind of like that. It's another case of subversion I kind of like. It's a kind of like, it makes me think of mouthwatering in a way. I really like the trick in that level. But I think as far as difficulty, this could be in like the teens of CCLP4, because it just, as soon as you figure out the trick, it becomes snap, super easy.
Right. All right, moving on to number 5.
Okay, well, considering this is my list, I have to have a blue wall level.
All right.
And my number 5 is a revolves around blue walls. But this level, I really enjoyed. Aside from that part, I really enjoyed it because it's definitely it's a uniquely designed maze. It has a pretty nice overall design pattern to it, it just adds more to it for me. And the amount of chips you have to collect and everything, and it's a pretty confusing level, but it remains pretty simple at the same time. I can definitely see this like in the first 10 levels of CCLP4, and this level is Polygon Long Blow number 39. I don't remember who designed this though.
I think it was one of the cyber designers, either Cyberdog or Cyber Smack or one of those people.
I think it was Cyber Smack actually. Like he has quite a few good levels in the voting pool.
Yeah, I think it's him because it seems to be his design style.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this level. It's a lot of fun to play, and the teleports just add more flavor to it. It makes it stand out compared to normal blue wall mazes.
This is a pack I haven't played, but just looking at it, I really love this concept. How you have to get from one room to another. Sometimes you just go through the walls, sometimes you have to take a teleport.
Yeah, I like it too. It's pretty decent.
Adds some nice variety to the blue wall concept.
Yeah.
All right, so what's your number 5, Andrew?
Let's see. I need to pull it back up. That would be... Ooh. This is a level by Josh. It appears in one of his early sets. Big Auto 2 really did not appreciate it, but I actually found it really fun. I bet you already know which one, don't you, Josh?
I know what it is. I know
Ocean
what it is.
Currents. It's a strange level because I played this level before I had gotten into optimizing at all, so I was very bad at precise timing, and yet I still had fun with it. There's just something so clever about how you push the blocks onto the slides and they fall into place. I just really liked it, even though I think I had to retry a few times.
I like the idea
I
of
do
it.
not regret making this level.
Yeah, I'm glad it's a level. I don't know if I would want to see it in CCLP4, but I do like the idea of it. I think it could have been shorter, but I do like the concept. I do think it's a really neat concept.
I think
I don't. Oh, sorry.
one thing looking at it, I think that most of the more precise timing happened at near the beginning, which is something I really appreciate.
That's true. Yeah, that's definitely fair.
Yeah, when I designed Ocean Currents, that was like I think this was Josh L too. I designed this. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But this was like right after I beat CCLP3, so I had like all these different kinds of ideas I wanted to try out for my own level set that kind of met up to CCLP3 difficulty standards, just without the cloner's maze type stuff. And this is probably one of my at the time best levels that I designed, and I don't think it would have been in voting if Andrew didn't give it a rec. So because I think it was just me and him that got this into voting. But yeah, if I can go back, I would definitely make this shorter, and not rely too much on timing because I myself am not so good at it anymore. So compared to when I designed this, so yeah, I would definitely make this shorter if I could.
Cool. All right. So my number 5. Let's talk about teeth levels for a minute. So teeth levels, I feel like they kind of tend to be grouped into one of two camps. You got the levels that are like pure melee levels where you're running away from teeth, and like Josh designed a level called Gone to I was about to say lunch. That was very much in this vein. And then you got a lot of other levels like there's a bunch in CCLP3, like Jumble, for instance, where you just guide a teeth through a maze and try to manipulate the teeth somehow or lead it to a bomb or something like that. So you got the melee end of the spectrum, and then you got the manipulation end of the spectrum. But you don't really have a lot of levels that indulge a little bit in both. in a way that just feels seamless. And this level, I feel, does that. And if you know me, you know I like to see levels that transcend design tropes or blend these kinds of genres together, and I think this one does. It is Acropolis number 21, Pursued by Shadows, which was designed by Andrew here. So the whole concept behind this level is that you're supposed to take these teeth and dodge them while getting chips, but inevitably you'll probably come across a situation in which you're going to be trapped. And you're going to have to lead the teeth into a teleport, which will then take it through a slide that will bring it back to the main area where you're running around in. And I really like this level for a few reasons. One is that, aside from the middle room, which is kind of a bit long, the path is a bit long to guide the teeth through. Most of the level is pretty manageable as far as manipulating the teeth. And I think this level, much like Someplace Safe, works pretty well as a teaching tool as far as how to deal with teeth, because I think some people, especially if you haven't played the game for a while, may look at something like this and go, "Oh man, teeth! Run, 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 run!" And then they're going to be forced with the "Oh no, I'm stuck. How do I handle this?" And we'll have to actually puzzle it out in a way. So I really like the fact that it actually forces players into a scenario where they have to get out of it, and getting out of it's not ridiculously difficult. So that's my number 5, Pursued by Shadows.
As the designer, I'll say it's one of my favorite levels to replay in the set, maybe just because it's so, well, it's not super short, but it's pretty short, and it's action-packed. It's kind of fun to make the teeth disappear. And I'll also say that that center section used to be a lot harder before I revised it. It used to be the teeth would almost always get trapped in the spiral with you, and you have to lead it all the way to the teleport.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad that got redesigned.
Yeah, Pursued by Shadows. I like this level when I played it in this voting pack, but I do think I think we all know that there might be some better teeth levels in the voting pool. I do like the idea with this one with having to lead into the teleport. That's definitely something I've never seen done before, and that's a pretty clever design trait as it is. So I like this level for the uniqueness and how it doesn't get too crazy, because I think there's only 7 teeth you have to deal with, and like JB said with repair to automatic caution doors, it I don't think it would have been designed any better by someone else. I think Andrew designed this pretty good. I think this is as best as it's going to get when it comes to design. So,
All right, so moving on to number 4.
okay. My number 4 is also by a level by Andrew. It's a level I think got a lot of hate right off the bat, and it's actually one in not CCLP4. That was kind of placed there more for the joke aspect than the fact that it's a bad level. I don't think this is a bad level at all.
I think I know what this is.
I think you do. There's a lot of interesting ideas with this level, and it focuses on paramecia, and that might have gave it away, but I had fun with it regardless, and that's Paramecia Apartments, bungalow number 13. I like some of the design elements here with how you can get keys on certain sides of the Paramecia, and how you have to get around certain ones, like the one at the top, or actually the 2 at the top. And just collecting the chips. It's not overwhelming. I think I'm not really sure why this level got so much hate. I think that was from Jeffrey, honestly. But I like this level. I found it to be a lot of fun. It's probably one of my favorite Paramecia levels in the voting pool so far.
I'm definitely right there with you. I liked this one a lot too.
As a designer,
Yeah.
I like the unlocking aspect of it, but I feel I made it a bit too big. Could have been a lot shorter so that messing up isn't so costly. And the reason it got a lot of hate in the beginning is because the section with the big trail that goes all over the place, splits off, goes all over the place in the bottom left, that used to be... there used to be just one huge trail, and I split it up into several different trails and reduce the number of paramecia. So like when Jeff was playing, he was trying to traverse there, and all of a sudden they'd bunch up and either kill him or force him to slow down.
Right, I definitely remember that.
Oh, I never saw the old version of this. That's probably why.
Yeah.
But even, yeah, as a designer, I don't think it's among my best work. It's one I'd be happy to not see in CCLP4 personally.
I think the thing I like about it is that it's kind of a little bit unconventional for a level that has a lot of safe spots for you to travel around in. Because it just mixes up all these different things. You got long paths, you got these little short, loopy things. You've got little lines that the paramecia go across. And I think that's really neat that it mixes all those together in a way that's inconsistent, but yet it feels consistent. Like, does that make sense? Like, I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I mean, there's definitely some parts I personally would hope to be improved. Like, I think the ones by the paramecia by the exit, or both the exits, that's probably the only part of the level I don't like. Is just that a little tight timing part. But it's not like it's impossible. So, I mean, other than that, I like how open it is. I guess. I mean, it's a dodging level, but it feels open to me at the same time, which I always like.
All right, so what's your number four, Andrew?
It's a bit. I'd say it's a level that's almost more of an experience than a puzzle, but it was just such a mind-blowing experience the first time it happened to me, and then I looked in the editor and saw how it actually worked. It's a level by Chipster1059, utility level 18. It's called Magic Block.
Oh,
That
this
level
one.
is so cool. That level's so cool.
Yeah. It's the sort of level, it's kind of like Unravel, and it just really solves itself, but the process of how it does that is really clever. And I'm wondering if CCLP4 might have room for maybe just one level of that type. I definitely prefer this to Unravel personally. And if
Yeah,
not,
I
it's
do
fine.
too.
I still think it's a good level, even if it's not quite the right fit for CCLP4.
Yeah, I definitely love the concept in this a lot. I think my only beef with it is that and this is just a personal thing, so take this as you will, but I tend to not really be a big fan of levels where you're kind of forced onto a path and don't really have any like say in what's going on. Um, but other than that, the concept was just so cool, and I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, that's the same thing with me personally. It does solve itself. I do like this more than Unraveled as well. Um, but I like the design of this. Like it's pretty cleverly designed, and but it does kind of solve itself. So I didn't give it a high rating mainly for that reason, but the idea is pretty cool. I definitely haven't seen a level like this before.
All right, so my number four is another pretty easy level. I could see this being in the first 10 levels of the set. And once again, this is a level that does a lot of different things in a very small space, but it manages to forge its own identity, even though it's juggling a bunch of different things. This is Justice 29, which is a level called Tease by Scott Feeney, who designed levels for CC2. And this level is rather interesting. I saw it originally when it was submitted for CCLP3, and I think a lot of levels back then that were easy were kind of looked down upon during its voting process. But this one I especially like for a set that's not CCLP1, just because it manages to get you in the mood for dodging. The level contains these two tracks. There's one that's a water-based one. There's one that's a fire-based one that have gliders and fireballs going around them, respectively. And all along the tracks, there are these exits that are surrounded by fire and water. And I love the fact that you're being just totally tantalized. These exits are just right there. And if you're not like super up with the game, like if you're not playing every custom set, this could kind of throw you off a little bit. You're roaming around and there's these monsters going around, and then all of a sudden, you're getting hit by one just because you were looking at one of those exits. And I think that's kind of fun. It again, much like Someplace Safe, it really sets the tone for making sure that you're alert. It's not destroying all of your expectations. It's not completely unraveling your world. It's just making sure that you're up and at 'em when it comes to playing the game. And I think as far as an introductory dodging level, for the first 10 or 20 levels, it does that really well. So that's my number 4 tease.
All right. Well, first things first, a big shout out and thank you to Chipster for getting Scott Feeney to submit levels for CCLP4.
Yes.
Because yeah, he wouldn't have submitted if he didn't get him to. So that big thanks for that. As far as this level in particular goes, I like the idea with it. I think it is a little too easy for my personal liking, but for the time it was designed, I can respect it. I don't think the levels at the time this was made were around, and it is a pretty simple level with how to dodge the monsters. The track it's not like the track gets disrupted or anything, which is also a big plus.
Right.
I can definitely see that the designer could have probably added more monsters to this than what exists right now, which I'm thankful he didn't. But I like the level. There's actually a different level by him that's in my honorable mentions whenever we get to those. It's not this one though, but there's another level by him I really like that I'll probably mention later on.
Personally, this level didn't really jump out to me as anything special, but I wouldn't mind seeing it in CCLP4. It's certainly a fine level. I do think that the unreachable exits concept isn't quite as exciting now as it might have been back then, and I think there are other levels that do more interesting things with it. Like this one, I was just like, oh, unreachable exits, okay, just ignore them. I think something like wrong exit that actually sort of does something with the concept is a better use of the concept. But again, that's a much different type of level than this, which is a dodging level.
Yeah,
that's fair. All right, so moving on to number 3.
Okay, so my number 3 is another level I made, and one I'm really happy with the design of, but I know this isn't everyone's cup of tea. I know it's definitely not JB's, because he's mentioned this level at least 2 or 3 times. I think he knows what I'm talking about. But it's a level I would like to see in CCLP4, if not something similar to it, just because it's one of those levels where you can't free every monster. You have to navigate really carefully to not hit a monster or step in a tile that will kill you, etc. And the aesthetic choice of it makes it even more difficult to read. But I think that adds more complexity to the level, which makes it, in my opinion, better. But as the designer, I can't really comment on any of that. And this level is Zabriskie Point, voltage number 38.
Wait, I've said bad things about this level?
Well, not bad things. More like, I think, I don't remember specifically, but like, I remember something like, I'm looking at you, Zabriskie Point, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think you compared it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly my favorite concept. But I think for this concept, this level is a good example of it, though.
I personally think it's one of the best examples of this concept. Don't step on dirt next to a monster. It's a concept that we've seen a lot, but this does something special with it, and it's the gravel spaces that really set it apart for me. Because you can step on gravel next to a monster, and that just changes a little bit of how you have to navigate through things, how you have to think about it.
I think what I like about this level is that it doesn't feature any hidden information. So, in other words, it's not like Blue Forest Fire, where you're actually actively having to piece together what's going on. You do see everything, but your brain is having to switch between I can step next to this monster because it's gravel, but I can't step next to that monster because there's dirt.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, in comparison to this, I honestly, I prefer the other one I made. I think it's called Shrub, which is differently designed and
Yeah, I
whatnot.
like that
But
one more
I
too.
yeah, but this level, I like it a lot just because of the concept. It hasn't really been done a lot since like Spooks or anything. I can't really think of another level that's done something like this besides that. But even then, that's not the case entirely. But yeah, that's my number 3.
Cool. What you got, Andrew?
My number 3 is a variety level with a bunch of interesting concepts. None are super demanding, but I really enjoyed playing through it. And it is called Turmoil. It's level 23 in the Hillside Pack.
Turmoil. I'm trying to remember this one.
It's the thing that jumps out to you immediately if you play it is the beginning part where you're basically in a Force 4 maze with balls traveling vertically, and there are almost no safe spots, and you have to collect red keys. But actually figuring it out was pretty neat, and it's not as hard as it sounds. That section's pretty small.
Oh yeah, this level. Um, yeah, I didn't give it that good of a rating. I can say that.
I apparently didn't either, but I
Um,
meant to go back and look at it again. And for those of you who are listening who may not know this, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I do give a lot of low ratings, so that's not necessarily just because I don't like levels. That's just because the ratings are also a reflection of how much I'd like to see the levels in CCLP4 relative to other levels. So it may just be that this level I may have wanted to just see less in the final set.
yeah, that was my case. That was the case with me too. Um, like when I first saw it in the editor, it looked like a really fun level, and even after seeing the starting section with the force floor and the ball dodging, I mean that's unique because that's not really something that's been done before. But I don't think it really works well. I guess I don't know. I don't know. I guess a different monster could have been picked to make it more difficult, but who knows? I'd have to replay this again, though. It's been quite a while since I played this level.
Yeah, same here.
Well, then I guess I might have succeeded picking a level that I like that no one else does.
Well, I guess that was the point.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 3 is a level that's, again, it's a fairly simple level, and it doesn't exactly have any expectation-shattering elements in it, but I mainly put it on here just because, or I mainly voted for it just because it's very, very uniquely shaped. And I have not really seen anybody else praising this level, so I'm going to put it on here. And that level is Voltage number 46, Stairs by Archie Pusaka. So this level looks like a set of stairs. And you basically go up and down these stairs doing various things like pushing blocks around, going through forced floors. There's a section that I really like where you're switching tanks, which is really fun. And then for the very end, there's a hint that tells you run without stopping, and you really do need to run through these balls without stopping, and it's really satisfying to get to the very top and go, oh, that hint was totally right. And it was, I don't know, it was just a really fun level just to climb up through and everything, and I really like it a lot. I wouldn't mind seeing it in CCLP4. Stairs.
I haven't
I would.
actually
Huh?
I haven't actually played this level, but that last section sounds like something I'd love. The only thing is, as a personal matter, I don't really like the type of dodging that appears in the second section. Having to go through it 3 times might get a little old for me.
That's fair.
I would say this level, like, I don't know. Like, I like the idea with the stairs and everything, and I do like that tank section a lot, and the ball dodging climb as well. Um, I would say I would like to see more to this than just key swapping, but I think if that were the case, I probably wouldn't like that either because it would just make it more long. So I don't know. I think it's a good level though. Yeah, it's a decent level.
All right. So moving on to number 2.
Okay, so my number 2 is a kind of a melee level, which I'm not a really big. I'm not really big on dodging levels, honestly. Like, there's very few in this voting pool that I like. This is probably my favorite one of them all. Um, but it consists of dodging bugs and paramecia that you have to dodge because you have to collect chips that are in their path. And the way this level works is it's kind of luck timing, I guess, because you don't know how the collisions are going to work. But the level is so small that and so like contained. And I think it's
Oh,
contained perfectly.
I think I know what this
Yeah,
one is.
yeah. I love how contained this level is. Like, if this was a full map, I would hate this level. But for the size it is, I love it. It does this idea so perfectly. And it's kind of reminiscent to an older level from CC1. This level is called Aggressive Colony, Utility Number 12.
Yes.
I love this level.
No.
Oh, if it makes you feel any better, Andrew, I'm not a big fan of it either, but I understand why Josh likes it so much. So I can definitely see it from that perspective.
I'm just gonna say that I have had horrible, horrible time trying to solve it. I don't think I've gotten further than about 6 or 7 chips. Even if it's this small, I just can't do it. There's something about it that I'm not getting, apparently.
I can see those reasons. It's not like you have a choice in how the monsters move because they're always following the outer walls or the inner walls. But I mostly like how contained it is. Like, I know for a fact if this took the whole map, I wouldn't like this level. It would have been an immediate one for me. But considering the size and how it's chaotic, but not extremely chaotic in my opinion. That's why I like it so much. And I don't believe there's a specific order you have to get it to, like, for the best, dodge free route or something. There might be. I might have gotten lucky and solved it pretty quickly. So who knows?
All right, so
That is my number 2.
what's your number two, Andrew?
This is a blue wall level. It's one of the first blue wall levels I've played in voting, and it still remains one of my favorites.
Ooh.
It's aesthetically pleasing, has some variety throughout it. Doesn't toss in a bunch of complicated concepts. It's just a really nice maze. It's Speckles of Silver, level 17 in the Waffle Pack.
That's a fun
It
one.
combines blue wall mazes, thin wall mazes, hidden wall mazes, and recessed wall mazes. And thankfully, the recessed wall mazes are really simple. And what I really like about it is, as I said, the variety, the aesthetic pattern to it, and also even the fact that it looks like it's divided into rooms, but the division isn't really strict because you usually have to enter a single sector from several different directions to get all the chips. It's another one of those little subversions of expectations that I kind of enjoy.
Mm.
Oh yeah, Speckles of Silver. Yeah, I love as the designer of this. I love how I honestly love how I made this level. I mean, there's a couple of parts I would change, and that's mostly in the 2 rooms that share like all the walls combined. Mostly the one above and below where Chip starts, because those look like guesswork situations because you don't know there's hidden walls there. But other than that, I love how this level flows out altogether, and
I
how
don't
the
think it
rooms
turns
like
out to be guesswork. I believe the recessed walls there are just shortcuts, but I could be wrong.
you can get around them. I think they are mostly shortcuts, but I know there's some cases you can get like stuck in between them or something. I don't know. It just
Oh
looks like
yeah, I
one of
get what
those
you
things
mean.
someone.
Like if you go above Chip, make a left, and then later on you cross the other recessed wall right to left, you'll get stuck because of the hidden wall. I get what you mean by that.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that when I was rating this level.
yeah. That's never really been complained about though, so I don't know if anyone's actually fallen for that. So I don't know. That's just something I can see someone getting stuck in though.
All right.
JB, what were your thoughts on it?
Um, it's been a while since I played this one, but I remember enjoying it for the most part. I want to say I looked into the recessed wall thing, and it may be possible to mess that up, but I'll have to look at it again. I don't actually have the packs right here in front of me, sadly.
Yeah.
Alright, so my number 2 is also a level by Josh. And I remember when I first played this level, I was just like, oh man, this level screams beginning of CCLP4. I thought that this was for sure going to be the level that everyone was going to talk about as being like a prime candidate for the beginning of CCLP4. And then when we were testing things out on the staff, back when I was on the staff, um, I remember Josh himself didn't even nominate this level for voting, and I was like, no, this is awesome. And I'm probably still feeling really alone in just how hyped I am for this level. But that is Acropolis number 27, Union. This level is basically just a pure item swapper, and it's designed such that there's 4, I guess you could say, compounds that have chips inside them and pop-up walls that you can use to get to them. And it's you go through, get the chips, and then from there you go item swap to the exit, and by revisiting all the areas that you were visiting before. And I think the reason why this level stuck out to me was twofold. One of them was that it felt a lot like one of my own levels called The One Who Unlocks, which I don't really like very much, and I felt like this took that design style concept and improved on it in some ways. And the other thing was that, again, it was one of those levels that kind of set the tone for what an official set could contain. It was very simple when it came to the concept it was presenting, but it also had that hint of, oh, you just need to make sure you're on your toes, with the pop-up walls, even though that may not necessarily be devious or anything. But it's at least, lets the player know that it's not going to be, just a joyride through the entire set. So I think as an early level, this really succeeds a lot as a design. As an aesthetically pleasing level, it succeeds quite a bit. So yeah, that's my number 2, Union.
I'm trying to remember. I thought I nominated this level. I might have just missed it, but
And maybe you did
I
later.
can
I don't
totally.
know.
I might have not. I don't remember, but looking at it here, I can definitely see why you like it. I actually wasn't inspired by The One Who Unlocks.
Oh,
I don't think I ever seen that level, but when I designed this level actually, but I don't remember when that level was created.
well, I remember it was like a few months before you had created this, so I think that's why I connected the two.
Oh yeah, it does bear some resemblance. I can totally see it now, but uh, yeah, I can see it being an early level in CCLP4. I think the reason why I'm not. I mean, I can't really be against it. It's one of my levels, um, but I think the reason why I would be opposed for it to be included is because it is kind of trivial in some way, because I think there's a few too many recessed walls, like how there's one on outside on every edge basically, or more than one. So it kind of makes the item swapping uh, not as hard as I wish it was, I guess. Yeah, that's mainly the reason why. But as a concept and like an introduction to like getting something first and being careful and then going back into getting another thing, I think I did that pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think looking at it, it would be pretty hard to mess up the recessed walls in this level. There's well, several on the outside. The ones that really matter are the ones in the middle of each side, and there are 4 of those. You don't even need to use any of them when you're grabbing the chips. Or actually, I guess you need to use one of them when you're grabbing the chips, maybe. But it'd be a fine early CCLP4 level. I certainly wouldn't be sad to see it in the set.
I don't know, me neither.
All right, so finally number 1.
Wait, I think you're forgetting something, JB. The
What?
honorable mentions.
Oh, that's right. We do that before number 1, don't we?
Yes.
Oh, my bad. All right, so honorable mentions, Josh. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, oh wait, honorable mentions. Okay, so I don't have a whole lot. Out of all the levels I picked for this list, I only picked a total of 20. Um, and this was mostly because of, I haven't seen them be praised or talked about much, and that also went into account to my top 10s. But a couple of levels I didn't include on my list that are on my mentions. One of them is called the Key Cave, which was designed by my brother.
Mm.
And I personally think it's his best level in the voting. He didn't get a lot, but I think this is his best one. It kind of ties into Colorblind Dog a little, just without the teleport sequences and everything. And a couple of others. Uh, Fire Escape by Scott Feeney, which was the level I was referring to earlier.
I was wondering if that was it.
Yeah, it's Fire Escape. It's basically this level where there's red buttons in these corridors with the fireball clone machine up top, and you have to collect chips, and you have to pass these red buttons to get to them. Ultimately, cloning a bunch of fireballs, and you have to basically escape from them. So I think that concept was pretty cool. A couple of others was Break In, which I don't know who designed this, but it's this level with the symmetric block formation in the center of the map, and there's two pop-up walls on the north and south edge of this intersection, and you have to kind of figure out how to get all the blocks out, because I think there's only like one particular way you can get them all out and use them, because you need them all to get the chips. And for our teeth level, I have Stalkers, which was by Zane.
Oh.
And it's like this chaotic teeth dodging level. You have to guide them into bombs and get these red keys, but it has that sense of urgency, like, oh, where do I go with these teeth, and how do I handle it? Because there's quite a few teeth actually, but I had fun with it as a melee level. And
that was in
that's all mine.
That was in the Justice pack. I like Stalkers. It's like extremely tough to survive at the start, and then it gets really easy as you clear out enough teeth, and it's kind of a neat feeling.
Yeah. And I have Buried as well, but I know Andrew likes that level as well. The one that lesson one.
I have Buried as,
that one. Yeah.
I have Buried as well, but I know Josh likes that level as well. That's
Yeah, I posted a pretty huge feedback about that level on its own, so go read it. It's in whatever pack it's in.
Let's see.
I think it's in.
It's in the Zygote pack, number 4.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right, so
that's all my honorable mentions.
So what you got, Andrew?
Can I go now?
Yeah.
All right. So I have 4 of them. You already know Buried is one of them. One of them is actually one of my levels, which I wouldn't say it's one of my best levels in voting, but it's one that I hoped would get at least some positive feedback. Slide of 25 Trials, just because I think it explores a concept that's been somewhat maligned, which is, timed sliding into a monster path, but it does it in a way that's fair. But I guess I could see why people might not like it, because it goes on for a bit, and the part at the end can be cruel, even if there's a chance to save yourself before you get thrust into the path of the ball. And then a couple others were like Buried. They're levels that I think are underrated, but they have gotten positive feedback from other people, and they are Ghosts on Detaching Retinas, which is level 36 in the Kangaroo pack, which I think is just for a pure, absolutely pure glider dodging challenge. Is very interesting to complete. A real skill tester, and I felt really satisfied to get through it. And then Soko Bananas, level 7 in the Dandelion pack, which had just a really brilliant starting puzzle, then a few neat other pretty casual puzzles to go after it. And I guess I can't really put it in my top 10 because it was one of the few levels that Madhav gave a 5 in CCLP4 voting. I believe, if I remember that correctly.
All right, so my honorable mentions, I actually just added a couple here while we were going through everything. I don't actually have pack numbers for all of these, but I'm just going to list them here. Roy G. Biv was one of them. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about that, even though it's one of my favorite concepts in voting.
And it won the Hurt and Heal for my set.
Oh yeah, that's right, it did. I forgot about that. Okay, well there you go. I got myth busted. All right, um, Anaconda, which I think is from the Zygote pack, if I'm not mistaken, um, as a navigation puzzle and as a dexterity kind of challenge. Speaking of which, Be Quick About It, Man was another one. And Walker Cavern, which was designed by Jeffrey for a Walker level. As another navigation kind of level, Restrictive Argyle by Jeffrey. Also got in here, as well as after the last podcast we had, Cell Swapper by Marcus O. And then finally, I've got Pinball and Invisible Fence by Andrew.
I definitely agree with Anaconda and Cell Swapper, especially. I think Anaconda is one that I really didn't like for CCLP1, but I think it's a much better fit for CCLP4.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think I really gave it a high rating for CCLP1, but I think for CCLP4, it's just the right size. It does what it does really well. All right, so we're all ready to move on to our number ones?
Yes,
All
I am
right.
at least.
Number one. And I think
Alright,
I
so
know
my
what
number
Josh's
one-
is.
If you already know it, I haven't even talked about it, and that might be bad. But my number one, I actually kind of talked about this level in a CCLP3 video that is currently uploading right now, which will be up tomorrow. But this level, I absolutely love the idea of. It's been done before, but in so much of a more complex way that made me just, I like this level. It's the only level in this entire voting pool that uses this concept, and it's basically a much, much easier version of suspended animation. And this level is Idle Contrast by Eddie Lim, Platypus number 9.
Ooh, see, I thought you were gonna put shuffling here.
I'm not gonna lie, that was on my list, but I wasn't gonna list shuffling again.
Oh, okay.
But I do know I'm probably one of the only ones that likes that level too, so. Yeah, I love Idle Contrast though. I think the suspended animation concept is definitely one that needs to be, I think, represented better again, because in CCLP3, I was more focused on getting to the exit than the idea that the monsters were moving again. But here with this level, it's pretty simple and actually kind of straightforward with getting the monsters to move, and you actually have to dodge them and collect some chips, and really that's all there is to this level. But I love it. I think it's a pretty perfect way for this concept. I know Jeffrey made a level of a medium difficulty, but I haven't even seen it, so I can't really compare this to anything else other than suspended animation. But I think it's a perfect fit for CCLP4, considering numerically is a sequel to CCLP3, but not really since CCLP1 came after that. So I mean, it's kind of weird how it's being lined up. Yeah, that's my number one.
I do like the suspended animation concept, but personally I haven't actually played this level, and I think it's one I can't really get a good idea of how it plays just by looking at the editor. I'd really have to try it for myself before I can make a judgment.
I enjoyed playing through it, but I didn't really rate it very highly just because as much as I'd like to see that concept represented well, I feel like this level tries to just basically provide an easier version of suspended animation. And if I'm going to see another level with that idea in a CCLP, I kind of want to see it taken in a different direction than just made easier. So that's the only reason why I didn't rate it too highly. I think it's an enjoyable level. I think it's well designed, but it just wasn't my thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I haven't really seen this all get. I mean, it was talked about, but it didn't really get a lot of positive feedback. I think it was actually discussed in the Skype chat.
I think so too.
That one, I think it was, and
What?
that's when Jeffrey made the medium difficulty one.
Right, right. I think that's when that happened.
But yeah, this is definitely a concept I personally would like to see, and I'm actually going to try to design something like this probably soon myself, because it's probably one of the only concepts I haven't really worked with.
You heard it here,
As a
folks.
designer.
Josh L7 confirmed.
It technically is with my Cray comp levels.
Oh, that's true.
No Josh levels can exist without eventually being put into a set. Josh levels abhor a vacuum.
All right, so what you got, Andrew?
Well, my number one level on this list is definitely one of my favorites in all of voting that I've played, period, not just among underrated levels. It's a level I basically played through it, then I went to the PAX feedback and was flabbergasted to find absolutely zero mentions of it. It is a Trevor Hedges level. It is Utility Level 39 Toggle Tank Factory.
I
It's a
love
level
that
based
level.
around it's a level based around the concept of having to not disrupt monster patterns as they hit various buttons, toggle buttons, and tank buttons, and it is just such a pleasure to play through. It looks so chaotic at first that you can't imagine how to get through it, but it's actually really quite intuitive to get through, and it's kind of creative the different ways you have to keep the monsters in place and how you eventually exit the level. And it was just a total pleasure to play through.
Yeah, I love this level a lot. It's probably well, yeah, it's probably one of my favorite Trevor levels that he's ever made. I kind of like one other level he's made, Electromagnetic Elevator, a little bit more, but as a standalone concept, this level takes the cake. I think this does it so brilliantly. I could never design something like this. So the fact that this level works the way it does, and it's not like super strict either, I don't think, but I love the way it all works out and how it plays through and everything. I think it's pretty cleverly set up and designed. So I enjoy this level too. I haven't really left feedback on it, mainly because um, I don't really know why I didn't. I guess it never really occurred to me to provide some for this level. Because I want to say this was in CC. Was it the CCLP1 voting?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. So I think that's why I didn't leave any feedback on it. I don't know if it was discussed back then or whatnot.
This is when I think like Anaconda works much better as a CCLP4 candidate than a CCLP1 candidate.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
All right, so my number one is a level that kind of tickles a nostalgia nerve, and this is why I'm putting it at number one. Is because I feel like my feelings about this level are going to be way out there compared to the way a lot of other people are going to view it, because it's probably not going to tickle the same nerve or the same thing for them. Basically, when I was a little kid and I first got my hands on chip edit and started designing levels, I really loved levels that involved sliding around on ice slides. And I don't know why. I think a lot of it was because I had a lot of fond memories of CC1 where you did this. Like, Playtime is the first level that comes to mind. And on a slightly lesser note, Mix Up also does something similar. And I think there may be a couple of other levels, like Arctic Flow. It's not like a really wide area, but you get to slide around for a really long time, and I thought that was so awesome. So levels that involve exploring by zipping around and looking all over the place have always kind of been something that's held a special place in my heart. And this is one of those levels, much like Nova Prospect, where there's sort of an item swapper thing, but it's held together with a mechanism or something that distinguishes it apart. and that's ice slides. More specifically, ice slides that are preceded by force floors. And I am, of course, talking about Waffle Number 22, Pneumatic Diversity Vents by Andrew Menzies. This level I played, I think, a while back when it was in its original set, when Andrew had released like a mid-development version of it. And I fell in love with this level, not just because of the ice slides, but just because you zip around and you may end up in a spot where there's like, nothing to do yet just because you don't have the right, tools yet. But it's still fun just to go there and discover that spot and then go back and be like, okay, I guess we'll go there later on and then go somewhere else and without feeling guilty. Like, you don't have to feel like, oh, I'm going to get totally screwed if I go over here and do this thing and everything. You can just kind of explore at your heart's content and you won't get punished for it. And I like levels that do that a lot. I do understand that some people have criticized the fact that you can go to places that you're not supposed to go to yet, but in my mind, that's actually kind of one of the strengths of this level. I do like, a lot of, like, just a lot of freedom in levels. I don't like being held by the hand and being told, no, you can't go there because I'm going to put a red door in front of this path and you can't go down that path. I like just being able to just zip around to my heart's content and have fun sliding around ice slides, and this level provides that experience. So that's my number one, Pneumatic Diversity Vents.
It's kind of coincidental that you bring up the topic of openness and freedom, because right now I'm playing one of my favorite games of all time. It's an open world game, which is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I do
Nice.
appreciate the idea of being able to go to places, see things that'll have a purpose later, come back to them once you know what that purpose is. And as a designer of the level, I like it. I think it's pretty high up on my own levels. And if it does get in, I'm wondering if we'll be able to do something with the secret hint.
That's the other reason why I like it.
I enjoyed playing this level. It's not one of my favorites, and I don't really have a specific reason why. It's I don't know, but I've enjoyed it when I first played it. I like the starting part with the blocks. I love that puzzle. How you have to fill in the water space. Like normally, as a beginning player, I think one would just fill in the water and just leave it as dirt, and not realize you have to fill it in and pack it down to get the trap button held. And a couple other parts to it as well, like the fireball guiding with the cloner, and uh, a couple other things. I love the way the secret hint tile works. I think that's perfect. How like a perfect example of a good secret hint, and like it's not one you have to necessarily get to, but it's an accomplishment on its own if you do. Um, yeah, I enjoyed playing this level. I certainly wouldn't mind seeing it in CCLP4. I wouldn't be upset, but it's not in my personal top 149.
I think the reason why I like the secret hint in this one was mainly just because it sort of bucked the trend of secret hints being in some area outside the main playing area. Because that seems to be a thing nowadays, is that you have levels where you're limited to this one like section, and then once you open up the socket or you get past a certain point, then you could go explore this outside area, which don't get me wrong, that's fun. But I feel like we've seen so much of that secret hints have mainly been in that kind of context. Whereas in this context, this the secret hint is tantalizingly right in front of your face, and you actually have to figure out how to get there. And it's not like super crazy difficult or anything, but I do appreciate the fact that it is right there, just a few squares away from you.
Yeah, if I'm pretty sure I think it's safe to say that as a staff, when it comes to like how we're going to approach like the Scyther trend, since we're not going to have a Scyther level in particular, I think it's safe to say we are going to approach the secret hints.
Yay!
I think it's safe to say that because it's getting to that point where we can start making these actual decisions for the final set, and this is certainly a good candidate for one. If like the hints on the outsides of levels, like like a water filled level, and there's this or hint island, or I think there's that hint outside of Stuck in Emerald as well.
The one that
I think when it comes to hint those, huh?
Oh, I was gonna say the one that comes to mind as far as like a hint island is Charcoal Cove.
Yeah, like things like that. I think we would tweak if those levels are to be considered for the set. I think any kinds of hints like that would be tweaked a little bit, or maybe reworked to make it more interesting to get to, other than just like building a bridge to it or just exploring outside to get to it or whatever. I think we'd make it more interesting to get to any other secret hint, kind of like how this level does it.
Cool.
But who knows? We'll have to see what gets into the set.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps things up for us. Do you guys have anything additional that you'd like to say before the last month of voting kicks off?
Get your votes in. Seriously, we're so close to 20,000 right now. It's not even funny.
Are you guys hoping to
And keep
get
in
10 votes on all the packs? Because I know there's like 7 packs that are falling short of that right now.
There, I personally would like to see that. I wanted 15, but I think that was an unrealistic goal, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think 10 is is achievable. There's a couple that have 8 and 9, so they're really close. And we have 35 unique voters as of
Yeah.
right now. But most of them have voted on mainly the waffle pack, because that pack alone has 21 total votes, which I think is kind of funny in a way. But at the same time, it's like I think these levels have enough focus. I think the later ones need the more attention right now. So
I'm on the last 4 right
like
now, so once I get past those, then Inchworm and Expansion will have 9, so that will help.
I think those two will be. I think actually all the last 3 packs will be pretty easy for you to get through.
Well, that's good.
because they're. I mean, no offense to anyone who's watching this that has community nominated levels in those packs, but I don't really agree with all of them. I think the rest of the staff don't as well. So
I can definitely agree with that.
I mean, they're nominated for a reason. So
Yeah, and I'll say that
I,
even though I included 3 inchworm levels, a lot of the levels in that pack were below average.
Well, and also, wasn't Inchworm partially comprised of levels that were staff nominated?
only the first 3.
Oh, it was only the first 3. Okay.
The first 3 were wrecked by the staff. The remaining 47 were nominated. The entire pineapple pack was nominated, and then the expansion pack with 20 levels was also nominated
Right.
levels. So yeah, enjoy Acropolis while you can, because you're probably going to want to go back to the good stuff after you play those packs.
Well, I included 2 levels from that on this list, so I'm
Yeah,
definitely I'm trying to enjoy it while I can.
get your votes submitted. We've established a time to end, which is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on April 30th. So basically, the last minute of April basically is when the voting's going to end.
Was that the announcement you were planning to make tonight?
Yeah, I'm actually going to post it right after this is over.
All right.
I have it typed up in a notepad file, just waiting to post it. And there'll be some voting spoilers too.
Dun dun dun!
I mean, as
Yeah.
of the current voting results,
Ooh.
because they're obviously going to change pretty soon, because we're going to get a whole swarm of votes probably within this month alone.
I would imagine so.
That's all I have to say.
As a staff member,
Yeah.
I'd like to just impress upon everyone the importance of your vote. If you think your vote doesn't count, it really does count, because the top 149, the levels near the bottom of the top 149 are on a razor's edge. A difference of 0.1 fun rating in either direction could shove them up or down by about 50 positions. That's how tight of a race we have here.
On a gleaming razor's edge. That's for you, Andrew Bennett, if you're listening to this.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be challenging to assemble the set. I mean, if we don't get as many votes as we would like to, we the staff are gonna have more power to choose what gets into it. And I mean, as much as of a good thing that could be, we don't really want that. We want the community to be involved in it as well, because otherwise it would make voting pointless.
As a
So,
former
I mean,
staff member, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to handpick all 149 levels for CCLP4, but I mean, we have to make it fair. I mean, if we don't get the votes, it's not going to be all 149, but it will be a good chunk of them, and we don't want to do that. So get your votes in, and who knows? There might be a little surprise for if we hit 20,000 votes. Who knows?
Ooh. Well, you heard him, everybody. Get those votes in. So, until the next time, this has been the CCZone podcast, everybody. I'm JB Lewis.
I'm Andrew Menzies.
And keep on shipping. We'll see you next time.